Oh my God, did you see that? She dropped the tray again. More laughter. Then someone said, loud enough that the whole break room could hear, maybe they should put her back on dishes. At least she can't break those. The woman in the gray uniform didn't look up. She set the fallen tray back on the cart, wiped the floor with a cloth she pulled from her apron pocket, and kept moving. Her name tag said Rosie. That was what everyone called her. Not Rosa, not Ms. Alcantara. Just Rosie, the way you'd name a dog. Mercy General Hospital sat at the corner of Whitmore Avenue and 5th, a 14-story building that had been rebuilt twice in 40 years. The newest wing, the Cardiology and Surgical Center, had opened 18 months ago. It had been named after a donor. Nobody on the cafeteria staff knew who that donor was. It wasn't the kind of thing that got mentioned at orientation. Rosa Elena Alcantara had been working the morning shift in the hospital cafeteria for 6 weeks. She arrived at 5:45 a.m. She wiped down tables, restocked the hot food station, pushed the cart through the corridors on the upper floors for the patients who couldn't come down. She wore no jewelry. She kept her dark hair pulled back tight. She wore her uniform the same way every day, pressed flat the night before, because that was the kind of woman she was. She was 31 years old. Nobody in that hospital knew anything else about her. The one who started it was Dr. Kevin Phelps, second-year surgical resident, 28 years old, the kind of man who had never once in his life been told that he was not exceptional. It began on a Tuesday. Rosa was pushing the cart through the third-floor corridor near the residents' lounge, when she turned a corner too slowly. The cart was heavy, one of the wheels stuck, and the corner of it bumped the door frame. A stack of paper cups slid off the top tray and scattered across the floor. Dr. Phelps was standing right there. He looked at the cups. He looked at her. Then he turned to his colleague, Dr. Amber Whitfield, and said, "They really need to set an age limit on these positions. I'm serious." Amber laughed. Not a big laugh. Just a small, easy one. The kind of laugh that costs nothing. Rosa crouched down and picked up every cup. She didn't rush, she didn't apologize. She stood, repositioned the cart, and moved on. Dr. Phelps watched her go. Unbelievable, he said to no one in particular. The following week, it happened again. Rosa was delivering a meal tray to room 318 when she passed the nurse's station on that floor. 3 residents were gathered there: Phelps, Amber, and a third one named Dr. Justin Crane, who was tall and had the habit of speaking too loudly in quiet places. "There she is," Crane said, not bothering to lower his voice. "The woman who moves at the speed of dial-up." Phelps laughed. "I timed her once. 54 seconds to cross the lobby. I counted. 54 seconds, Amber repeated, shaking her head. "How does she not get fired?" Rosa kept walking. She delivered the tray to room 318. She set it down carefully. She adjusted the straw so the patient could reach it. She asked if they needed anything else. Then she walked back out past the nurse's station, and she didn't look at any of them. What nobody noticed, what nobody ever notices about the people they've decided don't matter, was that her hands were perfectly steady. By the 3rd week, it had become a kind of sport. Someone, nobody would ever admit who started it, began timing her with their phones. When Rosa came through the corridor, one of them would hit the stopwatch. They'd share the results in their group chat. 1 minute 8 seconds from elevator to room 309. New record. There was a nursing supervisor named Helen Grady who saw it happen once and said nothing. There was an attending physician named Dr. Carl Tobias who overheard the group chat joke being read aloud in the lounge and changed the subject. These things are worth noting. The cruelty of the active participants is one thing. The quiet comfort of the bystanders is another thing entirely. Rosa found out about the stopwatch game on a Thursday morning. She found out because a young orderly named Miguel told her. He was 19, first month on the job, and he felt bad enough that he pulled her aside near the supply closet and said, "Hello, Mrs. Rosa, I don't know if you know, but some of the doctors, they've been timing you with their phones. I'm sorry. I just thought you should know." Rosa looked at him for a long moment. "Thank you, Miguel," she said. That was all she said. She went back to work. What Rosa Elena Alcantara did not tell anyone at Mercy General. What she did not tell the HR administrator who processed her paperwork, the shift manager who handed her the gray uniform, the other cafeteria workers who asked where she was from, that she had founded Alcantara Health Partners 12 years ago. She had started it at 21 in a rented office with 2 folding chairs and a used desktop computer after her mother was denied coverage for a surgery that should have been simple and ended up costing the family everything. Rosa had been pre-med at the time. She dropped out. She redirected. It took 6 years to build AHP into a viable company. It took another 3 to make it profitable. By the time Rosa was 28, Alcantara Health Partners had contracts with 11 hospital systems across the country. By 30, it had 19. The company designed patient navigation programs for underserved communities. The kind of patients who got lost between referrals, who couldn't afford copays, who didn't know what their rights were. The kind of patients who ended up in rooms like 318 with nobody adjusting their straw. Mercy General had been a partner organization for 4 years. The Cardiology and Surgical Center. The new wing, the one with the long name on the brass plaque near the elevator, had been built with a $4.2 million contribution from Alcantara Health Partners. The name on the plaque wasn't Rosa's name. She had asked for that. She had specifically requested that the donation remain anonymous, tied to the organization, rather than to her personally. The board had agreed. The brass plaque said Alcantara Health Partners, Cardiology and Surgical Center. Most of the staff just called it the CSC and had long since stopped reading the sign. Rosa had wanted to understand what the experience was like for the people her programs were supposed to serve, not from a boardroom, not from a survey. She had done this before, spent time inside partner organizations incognito, and it had always changed her, given her things she couldn't have learned any other way. She had not expected the stopwatch game. She had not expected to hear herself described on a Tuesday afternoon in the 3rd floor corridor as a woman who shouldn't be allowed in the building. She had kept working anyway. That part, at least, was not surprising. Rosa had always been better at enduring than most people gave her credit for. The day it ended began like every other day. 5:45 a.m., the gray uniform, the cart with the stuck wheel. She had submitted a maintenance request for it twice, and twice it had been ignored. The elevator down to the basement kitchen. The smell of industrial coffee and scrambled eggs. But at 7:30 a.m., a woman Rosa had never seen before arrived on the floor. She wore a visitor badge and a dark blazer. She was carrying a clipboard. She spoke to the shift manager for approximately 4 minutes. And then the shift manager came to find Rosa. "Ms. Alcantara," the manager said, and that was the first time, in 6 weeks, that anyone in that building had called her Miss Alcantara. "There are some people who'd like to speak with you." In the conference room on 9. The conference room on the 9th floor was where the hospital held its board meetings. Rosa walked in still wearing the gray uniform. She had not been given time to change, and she had not asked. She sat down at the long table. The woman with the clipboard sat across from her. Beside her was a man Rosa recognized, Gordon Hale, the hospital's chief operating officer, and beside him was a woman Rosa knew very well, her own VP of operations, Diana Reeves. Diana looked at Rosa with an expression that was somewhere between relief and the specific kind of worry that comes from 6 weeks of not knowing exactly how this was going to end. "Diana," Rosa said. "Rosa," Diana said. Gordon Hale looked between them. He had not yet understood what he was sitting in the middle of. Rosa reached into the pocket of the gray apron, the same uniform, and set a small folded card on the table. It was her actual business card, Rosa Elena Alcantara, founder and CEO, Alcantara Health Partners. Gordon Hale picked it up. He read it. He set it down. He read it again. What happened next took 2 weeks, though it felt longer from the inside. The hospital's HR department conducted a review. Diana Reeves provided documentation, time-stamped, detailed, thorough, of everything Rosa had observed and experienced during the 6 weeks. The group chat, which Dr. Crane had foolishly kept on a hospital-issued device, was subpoenaed as part of the internal process. It contained 47 messages. Some of them were jokes. Some of them were not jokes. One of them, sent by Dr. Phelps at 11:43 p.m. on a Wednesday, said, "Honestly, I don't understand why they even hire people like that. Just to say they do?" There was a meeting with the chief of medicine. There was a meeting with the hospital's legal counsel. There was a meeting that included the residency program director, who sat with his hands flat on the table and did not speak for a very long time after reading the documentation. Dr. Kevin Phelps was removed from his residency position, effective immediately, pending a formal review by the state medical board. Dr. Justin Crane was placed on probation. He was required to complete a mandatory ethics and professional conduct program before returning to clinical rotations. Dr. Amber Whitfield received a formal written reprimand and was required to meet monthly with a faculty supervisor for the remainder of her residency. She had not initiated anything, but she had laughed. She had participated. That was documented too. Helen Grady, the nursing supervisor, who had watched and said nothing, received a formal conversation with HR about her obligations under the hospital's bystander intervention policy. It was not pleasant. It was not supposed to be. Miguel, the 19-year-old orderly who had pulled Rosa aside near the supply closet, was offered a full tuition assistance package through a program AHP had been piloting with 3 partner hospitals. He had mentioned, in passing, that he wanted to go into healthcare administration someday. Rosa had written that down. The last week of Rosa's placement, she finished the full 6 weeks, because she had committed to 6 weeks, and she did not leave things unfinished. Was quiet in a way the first 5 had not been. Word had gotten out. Not the full story, not yet, but enough. People held doors. A senior nurse asked if she needed help with the cart. The stuck wheel was fixed within 24 hours of Rosa mentioning it again, which she found both satisfying and quietly infuriating. She still arrived at 5:45 a.m. She still pressed her uniform flat the night before. On the last day, she was delivering a tray to room 318. Different patient now, same room. When she passed the nurse's station on the 3rd floor, a resident she didn't recognize was standing there, talking to one of the nurses, and he moved out of the way when he saw the cart coming. "Let me get that," he said, and held the door. "Thank you," Rosa said. She delivered the tray. She adjusted the straw. 3 months later, Alcantara Health Partners announced an expanded partnership with Mercy General Hospital. The new agreement included a revised patient services protocol, a staff conduct framework, co-developed with hospital leadership, and an annual residency workshop on dignity and professional accountability in clinical settings. The press release did not mention the 6 weeks. It did not mention the stopwatch, or the group chat, or the 47 messages, or the way a cart with a stuck wheel could cross a lobby while someone counted seconds on their phone. Rosa wrote the press release herself. She chose not to include those things, because she was not interested in public humiliation as the goal. She was interested in things actually changing. She had learned by 31 that those 2 things were not always the same. The brass plaque near the elevator still said Alcantara Health Partners Cardiology and Surgical Center. Most people still just called it the CSC. Most people still didn't read the sign. But Gordon Hale read it now. Every time he passed it, he read it. Diana Reeves knew this because she had an office on that floor, and she had watched him do it more than once. Just stop in the hallway, look at the plaque, and keep walking. He never said anything about it. There wasn't much to say. Some lessons don't arrive with a speech. They arrive the way Rosa Alcantara arrived every morning for 6 weeks, quietly, steadily, in a pressed gray uniform, pushing a cart with a stuck wheel through corridors where no one thought to look twice. The people who looked twice were the ones who understood, eventually, what they had almost missed.